Okay, we're being recorded in case you didn't hear that. So tonight is the 30th Pearl of Wisdom, and Mynoo will surprise and delight as she always does. This particular pearl is on the wisdom of harmony. So Mynoo will unveil these 7 pillars of harmony, and what are they? How do we build them? And what rewards await with these 7 pillars? And then, of course, the other side of the equation, what are those perils if we compromise? So very excited to have you all join tonight, and we will turn it over to Mynoo, and she will get us started on this lovely evening. As I always say, get your pen and paper handy because tonight will be no different. I'm sure there'll be lots and lots of note taking. Thank you for joining, and hello, Mynoo. So good to see you tonight.
Hello, hello, hello. Great. I'm going to take my headphones off and tell me if the sound is clear.
We can hear you. Yes, it's perfect.
Okay. Okay, great.
I always like to start, Mynoo, with where are you and what's behind you?
So I'm still in Berlin. I came back to Berlin. I think last week I was on Lake Constance in Germany. Today I'm in Berlin. And, the countdown has begun for me to return to Dubai on the 18th of July. So, yeah, excited.
Well, we've been watching all these delicious recipes that you've been posting, and it sounds like just such a magical journey you've been on. So hopefully we'll get a little bit of information on that tonight as well. So welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. And yes, we are ready to get started.
Fabulous. Thank you. Well, I was excited about harmony being one of the pearls of wisdom. And I'm excited because, a pearl of wisdom is a pearl that has been chosen because each one, if you only practice that and nothing else, you actually can create a world that works for everyone. And you are a part of that everyone. That's the power of this. And if you work with each of the pearls or several of them, you can imagine how rich and enriching your life becomes. And as you're living your life, that aliveness becomes exuberant. So that's the joy of, having one of the words as a pearl of wisdom. And then as I start talking about it, as I start going into the 7s, and they are different, for some it is 7 ways. We had the 7 secrets under, within optimism. So they vary. For harmony, it is the 7 pillars of harmony. It's the 7 pillars of harmony because it's like you get these pillars in place. Harmony becomes you. You're like, harmony is unshakable from you when you get these pillars in place. And that's why the choice of 7 pillars as opposed to 7 pathways. So what it also means is, when you have 7 pathways, you can follow any of those paths, but running along all of those paths would, be like going helter-skelter. 7 pillars means you take your time and build these pillars. They're foundational, even though they're not in the foundation, they are foundational. So even if everything in your world shakes up completely and shatters the different building blocks that you put together, the pillars stand, ready to support the next architectural marvel that you are going to create for how you are going to live your life. That's the uniqueness about this pillar approach. Now, why is it that harmony has 7 pillars? Why isn't that every pearl of wisdom has these pillars? Was my question to myself, And the intuitive response was, look, every word, and many of you have heard me say that, and those of you who've done deeper work with me know that that's how that's how I think, and that's an amazing revelation that I've had, that every word has an innate vibration, and so does harmony. The innate vibration of love, as you heard me say in Beyond Meditation, is it's a frequency. It's an amplifying frequency. The innate vibration of being human is a vibration of love, which is an amplifying frequency. The innate vibration of harmony is the divine embrace. When you are in harmony, you may be conflicted inside, or whatever it is that you are experiencing. It's as if you're held by the divine, embraced by the divine, that all's well. Relax. And you can relax into your conflict, and harmony arrives. You can relax into anything that you might be perturbed by, and harmony takes its place. I just thought, okay, that sounds beautiful. I relax into harmony. What happens then? It's as if every cell in your body experiences the divine embrace. And this is actually the divinity within you that comes out and embraces you. The divinity within every cell that makes up your being comes out and embraces you. And the divinity of every molecule, every atom that surrounds your environment, it's that divinity that comes forth and embraces you. That's the innate vibe of harmony. So you can imagine you have your 7 pillars of harmony. You are in this perpetual state of divine embrace. You put these pillars in place once. You're like, there's an amazing, relaxing into yourself, that deep state of relaxation that you can go into, that completely energizes and revitalizes every cell in your being. And you're exuberant with vibrant vitality. That's what occurs when you arise out of this experience of putting in place the 7 pillars of harmony. It felt so good, this whole divine embrace, and every cell being embraced, experiencing this divine embrace. This solidity, the anchoredness that you experience in your being is so profound, unshakable. And you know what it does? If you are clear about what your gig is on the planet, you know your source mastery. You know what you stand for. When you go at a cellular level, bringing in this divine embrace vibe, then that's what exists in everything that comes forth from you from that point on. And remember, when people receive anything that you send to them, it could be a message, a voice note, or a WhatsApp or a text message, an email. They receive your energy signature. They receive the divine embrace. That's the magic of harmony, and that's why it makes for a really great pearl of wisdom. So, the first pillar of harmony. The first pillar of harmony is hope. And my perspective on hope is quite different than how hope is perceived, as some of you already know. So with hope, Where there is hope, there is an undertone of anxiety or anxiousness. What if it doesn't happen? We hope for the best, or we hope this will occur. But there's an undertone. There's an underlying, like just like a silver lining, there's an underlying lining of, what if it doesn't happen? So every time you go into a state of hope, you're actually strengthening that undertone of anxiety or worry. What if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't come about? And it may even be, I don't even want to go there, but there is a direct connection to the anxiousness and worry about what if something doesn't work? What if what you're hoping for doesn't deliver? So this pillar of hope actually means, release hope. Forget about hope. Get real. See the world or whatever is going on for what it is and make an empowered choice. Hoping actually has the vibe of trepidation. When you come from a space of hope and trepidation is the vibe, then you don't give yourself fully. Or you keep your fingers crossed, remember? Just keeping that fingers crossed. Well, you're not actually in a relaxed state. So you're holding on to that inner conflict, hoping on the one hand that something will turn out, and anxious on the other. What if it doesn't? But we won't go there. Whatever is there as an undertone is actually the one that is in the beam, if you like. It's in the light. I'm not saying it gives you a lightness of being. It doesn't. It brings a heaviness. The phrase that we use, oh, we've done our best, and now, we've done whatever we could, now let's just hope for the best. Just look at it, so really, how do you work with this pillar of hope? You look at every area of your life. Remember, everything I talk about is something that can be applied in a full spectrum way. It is about full spectrum living, and it is about full spectrum well-being. So you can literally go in and go one after the other. Go into physical. In your physical stuff, where are you hoping for the best? Okay, it's great to know the lay of the land, that these are the choices I've made and I'm hoping for the best. Or I'm hoping this will occur, or I'm hoping something else will occur. Everything begins with getting a really good grip on the lay of the land. Once you've gotten all the different hopes that you have about your physical well-being, your physical choices, you then look at, well, what's the reality here? What's really going on? It takes the blinkers off, the facade drops, the shields go away. You step out from your heart into your reality. You become reconnected, reattuned, and present to your reality. What's real? Now, if in this reality, For each of these things, what is my empowered choice? And once you've done that, you don't stop at it. Okay, that's my empowered choice. What is my logical next step? And off you go. Get into action. So this is how we work with hope powering us forward. And so it's a very active way of leveraging whatever it is that we have hoped for, parking it and using the fact that you've parked it, but recognizing that this is something that I'd hoped for. You move forward, you progress forward, and you've really engaged with what the reality is. The more you start becoming accustomed to operating in what's real, you will drop the need to run away. And why is it important for that need to run away to be dropped? Because we are all magnificent beings that are given this opportunity of this human form so that we can harness all the gifts and rewards and connections and talents that we have and that others have presented to us and move forward. But when we hold on to stuff, we are not open to allowing that to come to us. Once you've gotten what's real, you start becoming comfortable, even in discomfort. You don't get thrown off track. Curveballs literally disappear. And even if something that does come in that interferes, it's not a curveball. Doesn't take you off your game. I'm saying this from my direct experience. And it's not, I haven't just woken up one day and it's all come together. No, I worked it. I worked it. Now, I was talking about using this approach, take this different areas of this full spectrum living: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, and environmental. In each of the areas, you look at where am I hoping? The more you understand the nuances, the easier it is to actually make empowered choices and be in active action about it. When you're hoping, you are in action. It's a passive action of sabotaging. Because what you're putting in place, the vibe that is a predominant vibe, is the angst or the anxiety or the worry about what it is that you don't want to happen. I'm seeing this play out like literally in our faces in this whole corona times that we've gone through. And in some parts of the world, it's still very, very real. Okay, we are all geared up to do this in the business. We just hope the lockdown lifts. So we're on pause. We're just ready. We're braced to go. Well, really, are you braced to go? Or are you, what is it? Given that you're hoping, then there is an undertone of something that you're concerned about. What if it doesn't happen? What is that? And then you engage in the yumminess of making an empowered choice in this reality. when you engage with what's real in each of the areas, it may not necessarily be pleasant. And it's okay. You just go for it, because remember what you're doing here. You're putting in place, you're building, you're constructing the 7 pillars of harmony. So it's okay to take the time and have these pillars constructed with this level of thoroughness. And you will find, when you anchor yourself in your reality, you will find that some aspects of discomfort were you just spinning a meaning that you gave to something that's real. And the meaning is the one that became real. That in itself, that realization in itself, is a huge one. Because now you can make an empowered choice and drop the meaning. And remember, when you've made an empowered choice, for you to go beyond a list that you've got, you must choose your logical next step and go take it. And the perils of not doing that really are, you remain in a state of hope. Hoping, hoping, hoping. And what is a state of hope? It's a state of passive action, as opposed to a state of active action, coming from an empowered choice. The work on hope, if you did it thoroughly, it is so powerful. Remember, I talked about, and many of you know that, our dignity is something that I've taken on as a mantle to bring out into the world. And we seeded that for humans and humanity as something which would be like a blossoming into dignity. And we're starting to see that occur. So as you start getting real and making an empowered choice and actually choosing and taking the logical next step, you are honoring your own worthiness. And imagine doing that in your physical, in whatever constitutes your physical life, your mental state, your emotional experiences, your connection to spirit that I call as spiritual, in your social dynamics, in your environment, from where you live and the environment outside of you. You're making empowered choices. And you're doing it so consciously, with such awareness. The power of that is huge. There isn't the wishy-washiness around hope with the undertone of what if it doesn't work. There is, okay, I've made this choice, I've taken this action, and now it can carry on. And it may not carry on. You also don't get attached in a way that grips you out of control. You can actually release, relax, and let go, and take that next step, and the next step, and the next step. This is the first pillar of harmony. It is a controversial point of view about hope, and it is one that I invite you to take on and work with practically. And I have great honor and respect for how hope has been used by us. I'm asking you to utilize it. How cool is it that we've hoped for so many things throughout our life? Because now you can work with that and really take it like a launch pad. Each one of those pieces that you've hoped for, applying this practice of the pillar of harmony, it becomes a launch pad that catapults you forward in what you're here to realize for yourself. The second pillar. You know, when I receive these sevens of the 108 pearls of wisdom, I don't edit them. I just use the words exactly as they come. And the word that came in was anchored, with an ed, as in the past, anchored, as opposed to an anchor. So anchored is the second pillar. Now, there's one experience that you have. Just imagine you are the captain of a ship, or you got a boat that's just come into the harbor, and you're going to anchor it, and you're throwing, you're doing whatever you need to do to throw the anchor and get it, have it happen. There is a vibe. There's a hive of activity that's there when that anchor, is the anchor process is going on. But once it's anchored, you reach the shore. You're there. Very different vibration, very different experience. So the pillar of harmony, the second pillar, is anchored. That's the vibe. Look, we are engaged in a vibration game. Everything is vibrations. Everything is vibrating. The earth is moving at such a fabulous speed that if we were not vibrating at a nanocellular level, we won't be sitting here being able to look at each other, So therefore, every word has a vibration, every thought has a vibration, every inanimate object is a collection of vibrating molecules. So is your body. So this aliveness is rife all around us, within us. So when we say the second pillar is anchored, you literally can go into, you don't need to worry about what are my anchors, or what are the places that I'm going to throw my, doesn't matter, you're anchored. This pillar basically is, I'm anchored. Use the full spectrum as your umbrella to go about looking at this. Where do I actually have that vibe of feeling anchored? Remember, in many pearls of wisdom, we've talked about acknowledgement. The power lies in acknowledgement. Acknowledging where you are anchored. You literally are giving it that nutrient-rich elixir, which raises the vibe of feeling anchored in your being. So continue the trend of using the full spectrum living constructs, and look at each of those areas. In my physical being, where am I anchored? Now, some of the discoveries may not feel that pleasant. Some of the discoveries may feel, uncomfortable when you actually realize that, I'm actually anchored to a particular point of view. And it's okay to have a point of view. It takes away the pretenses. So in this particular one, to build this pillar of harmony, there are some habitual patterns you will discover where you allow yourself to hold on to lack of harmony. Once you recognize, oh, I'm anchored there, that's why I just have a little foray of going away from this disharmony, and disharmony comes back again and comes back again. Well, you can decide to cut off that rope that's anchoring you there. You don't need to do anything with the anchor. Just snip it off. But if you don't know, you don't know. The many stories you will find, by the way, when you do this exercise, where am I anchored? In my physical being, in my mental state, in my emotional experiences. Where am I anchored? You realize so many things. We are anchored as our comfort blankets. Hey, but we are an adult now. We don't need that lanky. We don't need to be suckling at that thumb or whatever else. You can actually just cut that rope and let that anchor no longer be your anchor, because it isn't. The thing about this particular pillar is it isn't about being attached to any particular anchor, but just knowing that when you are dealing with harmony, it automatically comes in with the opportunity of knowing what your anchors are. And as you're building the pillar of harmony, that is the overarching intent. You've already showered yourself with that divine embrace. So even when you discover some of the bad and the ugly aspects of choices that you may have made that you suddenly become anchored to, you're in divine embrace. You are really untethered. And you can release them simply by knowing it's my choice. I have the device to just snip it off and let go. You don't need to worry about what you put in its place. You will recalibrate because you're doing it with the intention of building a pillar of harmony. The peril of not taking action here is you have so many things that you're anchored to. When a boat is anchored, it's not free to sail. At best, it'll be moved around by the waves here and there, but it can't just go its merry way. So quite useful to know where you're anchored. Snip off those anchors that you don't need to have so that you can sail away from there. That's the good part of this. It's just a matter of choice. Snip it off, you can sail away. There's no big, complicated process involved here. And where you are anchored, that you want to be anchored in, that's great. You have that feeling of security. I'm on shore. I'm on dry land, and I can still enjoy the comfort of being held in water, float, and I can get off because the land is right there and experience life. But do it in a very practical way. Look at physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, and environmental. Do not compromise. So you can imagine, you know where you're anchored physically, and you've actually, snipped off those anchors that you don't want to have. You compromised on the mental side. Or you just ignore the emotional part. Or spiritual is not something that I'm really engaged with right now. Well, you're probably anchored at that point of view. The bottom line is we are all engaged in spirit. The spirit of us. When we say hello to one another, We say hello to the spirit of each other. It's a very powerful thing that it's a small statement that my son made when we came to India. My dad had crossed over, and we came to India, and we literally, like, we were wanting to meet him, but he crossed over whilst we were traveling, so that happened. So we arrive, and in India, usually what happens is when someone crosses over, and if you're able to, then the body comes home, and it is laid in state, and it's laid in state in a glass coffin, which is like a refrigerator, in which the body is there. So literally, the body just arrived as we entered the house, and my dad looked completely calm and serene, and we came in, and my son just went to my dad's forehead and kissed him on the forehead, and then he he said to me, I've just had this realization. My granddad, he's not here. And so I realize that when we say hello to each other, we're actually saying hello to that sparkle. What is that sparkle, Mom? Is that what the soul is? And I say it is the spiritedness of each other. The spirit of my dad was not there in that body. That realization was like such a huge understanding. So it's there. We can't say, oh, spiritual is not for us right now. It is always with you. So you may be anchored with that point of view. Don't compromise, really. It is as powerful as a ship coming to shore without an anchor. It could bash around the sides of the shore and damage itself. You are on the shore in some areas of your life. In others, it's time to sail away. So we have a collection of anchors that are meant to remain. And there are others that are meant to be snipped off so you can sail away. All you are to do is to choose to snip them off so you can sail away. That's it. But you make those choices. The third pillar is resilience. What is resilience? Resilience is the art of keeping going. And here, when you're working with resilience as a pillar of harmony, you're making the choice of keeping going in the context of anchoring harmony. Harmony becoming your natural state. So every time you have taken on to do something, so here's what resilience does. When you work with resilience as one of the pillars of harmony, it brings with it discernment. You start choosing discerningly because you're going to keep going until you get there. Well, why would you keep going until you get there with loads and loads and loads of things? That'll just, you'll self-implode. But that's because we don't necessarily take so much notice of what are the things we're giving our word to. This practice of resilience as a pillar of harmony brings in a conscious awareness of what are we choosing to give our word to. I will do this. I will not do this. But if you say you're going to do it, you do it. Keep going until it's done. So if you're building this as a pillar of harmony, you literally are called to declutter. So here you really go and look at, what are the things I've given my word to? We have given our word to ourselves in so many different ways that we don't necessarily follow through, let alone be resilient. Really, just remember, every time you have committed to something and are not following through, you're actually depleting resilience. It's like dry rot being injected into this pillar of resilience, which is one of the pillars of harmony. It's a big one, and it is a bit of a heavy one. And it's okay. In the interest of harmony, experiencing the divine embrace in every cell of your being, it's okay to deal with some heavy pillars. This one really does call us to do a little bit of heavy lifting. And the heavy lifting will come from where you've given your word to some things and that you've not followed through, to go clean it up. Go clean it up. Now, there may be things you've given your word to, and those situations or those people no longer exist. How do you clean up? You clean up because the muckiness is really within you. So you go into that, do the unconditional acceptance process that I've covered many, many times, really with looking at, what do you feel about all of that? Where do you feel it? What might have been? And once you've really acknowledged all of that, what is the consequence of making that choice? Whatever else is present for you, go through all of that. And once there is nothing else for you to write or express, you make an unconditional acceptance choice, where you unconditionally accept what is. Step forward and move on. I'm going to move to the next pillar because we are only at number 3 and there are several others to go. There's a lot that you can do when you start working with resilience. The 4th pillar is majesty. This is the pillar of majesty. This is where you really take your rightful place. And your rightful place is stepping into your majesty. Your regalia. You literally, this is such a yummy experience, working with this. Majesty, okay, I'm going to take on majesty as a pillar, and I'm going to do it physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, socially, and environmentally. Transform my wardrobe, transform my look, transform, the choices I'm making. Really, it's amazing. So if you were the emperor of your world, and your world is the world that we all live in, actually. My world is the world that you all live in, and your world is the world that I'm living in. And you are the emperor of that. Embrace your majesty. Put on those kingly or queenly shoes. Walk up to your throne and sit up there. It gives you a different vantage point. And the vista is different. Embracing your regalia, knowing that anybody and everybody that is there, that comes into your life, comes there, bearing their gifts of magnificence, their gifts of talents, for you to have. And we often don't even realize or notice it. All we do is we go into a space of judgment. Not everybody does that, but it happens. The moment you embrace your majesty, it's like you become regal. You can be presidential about minutia that you might have gone into a spin about. You literally, from that vantage point, you see what is, and you are able to decipher, that's what happened. All this trauma, drama came from all the meaning we gave it. But when you're in the middle of it, thinking that you're the one that is perpetrating or a victim or experiencing it, you can't see that. You have to step up into your throne, embrace the majesty of you. So here the access to this is to look at where you may be stuck in some meaning, or where the spinning is taking place in your life, and make that conscious choice of putting on your regal attire and stepping up, sitting on your throne and looking at that situation, sifting the wood from the trees. And then making a choice of action. The fifth one, the fifth pillar, the majesty pillar is a yummy one, by the way. It's a really great one to do once a week. Just like a king would hold a court, and he would often have his special advisors that he would consult with every day, but have a court at least once a week. You create your own schedule. Do it at least once a week. It's pretty amazing to look at what has gone on in your life. Sitting up here, what do I see? Transforms your perspective about everything. You may have spent a whole week getting spun out of control by some story or the other being run by the media or out there on social media. You sit on that throne and its grip or its hold on you fizzles away. And you can look at it for what it truly is. And you'll see that once a week starts to transform how you show up. It brings a gravitas in your presence. You literally start standing tall and having this majestic or presidential point of view when things are going out of control or things are becoming really messy. You can lift your head up. You step away from that molasses or treacle that you may be finding yourself in from time to time, because you can see it. That's treacle. That's solid ground. We just slide into it. You don't see it because we're in there. And you can put yourself on the throne because that's your rightful place. The fifth one is a pretty powerful one, actually. It's omnipotent. Omnipotent. And it's exactly like the dictionary definition of omnipotent. This is that pillar. This makes you all-powerful. It's like, it's power that just cannot be shaken. This pillar gives you that. Now, in the context of harmony, having power that is just always present and is always there, what it means is you're bringing a knowingness to you that you are the all-powerful one. In the context of harmony, you have the divine embrace and the divine grace that keeps you in perfect balance, harmoniously. So this realization that I am And I always was, and I always will be the powerful one that can influence what occurs in my life. It's up to me to wield that power in the context of harmony. You automatically learn how to do it so that it's harmonious. You don't become a maniac. And you don't even need to worry about it because you just won't become a maniac. The context is divine embrace, harmony. So, such a safe place to experience stepping out of victimhood forever. Building the pillar of omnipotent. And the way to work with this is to take a situation where you feel completely powerless. And Corona time is a great one. You can actually do a benefit of hindsight here, where we all felt powerless at times. And yet, vast majority of people, and I don't have statistical evidence to prove it, though I feel it when I feel into humans, vast majority of people have actually felt that they have reclaimed their power in some form or another. Because power was given away to traffic, getting to work, juggling multiple things, pushing kids to school, cooking, getting out, coming back, having no relationships, even though being in a relationship. But there's the power that has come back where people have recognized what's truly valuable to them. This pillar, as a pillar of harmony, omnipotent, really requires you to look at hindsight and see where you felt that you had no power and actually you did. This is where you really build your treasure trove of facts that are very real for you, where you felt you were a victim or you were doing something because somebody else was pushing you to. You start reclaiming a knowingness that you are the all-powerful one, always have been. You are, and you always will be. It literally brings in that omnipotency. The sixth pillar is something that you've heard me talk about. It's called nuanced. Again, it's an ED. Nuanced. What this is saying is, in anything that you are working with, when you are building these pillars of harmony, at the first instance, it really will be stuff that is there at a surface level for you to work with. In building this pillar, you go back, you revisit everything that you worked on, and you look at the nuance. You look at the nuance. You look at the nuance. In discovering what's in the nuance, you're really anchoring that which is at the, really literally like at the kernel of the root of what actually occurred. When you're doing the logical next steps, keep a vigil at a nuance level in terms of impact, in terms of influence, in terms of the effect it has on you and others. The more you grasp the nuance in your understanding, the faster you make the journey from data to information to knowledge to wisdom to knowing. And when it comes to harmony, the more you are stationed in a knowing space, the faster and easier it is to continuously experience harmony in any situation and be able to consciously deal with some serious, conflicting, controversial stuff, but you are internally stationed in harmony in an unshakable way. So when I did this for myself, I literally, I mean, it looks like it'll take, oh my God, days and days, and it doesn't actually. I just said, okay, 7 days of engaging with the nuance. I took everything that I had under hope and anchored, literally physical. I mean, this is a very great structure: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, and environmental. You know, I didn't start with what are the things that I hoped for and didn't engage with the nuance there. I actually went straight for what are my logical next steps. And in some cases, I had to go into my empowered choice. Let me engage with it at a level of nuance. What does that actually mean? How is it actually going to play out? And where it didn't make sense, it's like, okay, where is it coming from? Then I went into the nuance there. I used it as an approach to get a deeper grasp. And you don't have to do it across everything like I did. I did it because I loved the idea of having these 7 pillars of harmony already built. And this is the thing, you build them once and that's it, they're there. So it's totally worth it, totally worth it. I mean, this even got me to, you've heard me talk about my book, The Bee Book. And there are many, it's a collection of stories that led me to the bee realization and then the implementation of that. Sort of a biography come, personal transformation and evolution book. It was my journey of self-liberation. I even went into some of those incidents and looked at the nuances there. It was amazing. I mean, there's a whole new book that has emerged, probably several books, by engaging with the nuances. Because you start seeing stuff in your life that you may have held on to as a truth. When you step into the nuance of what actually happened, what was really going on at that time, you start seeing the full picture of what is going on. You realize, my gosh, how could I not see this? And it doesn't matter. You're seeing it now. This particular pillar is so powerful. It stations you in a state of whole and completeness in a way that you do not budge from it ever. Because you start seeing the fullness of what occurred. And it is the 6th pillar because if you've done the first 5, you're ready to go into some complicated stuff at this point that may still be very much there. I mean, there are incidents that each one of us have in our lives, which makes such a mark that it's difficult to see them in any different way than the way that you have perceived they occurred. The nuance pillar. When you start looking at, okay, let's just go back in there and look at what was going on at that time. Let me look at the nuances of it. What was in the room? I mean, like literally like that. And you start seeing that even as you were there experiencing what you were experiencing, there were so many layers of thoughts that were going on, dots that you were connecting, the manipulations and maneuverings that you were engaged in that you had not acknowledged because you were so engaged in blaming something else or someone else. When you get the full picture, you become whole and complete, and you're complete with it. That incident goes. Literally, that ship of that story is gone forever. Don't compromise when you take this on. And the seventh pillar of harmony is yes. And here I thoroughly enjoyed this one actually. And I look back at times where I had said no to things. And I just I had fun innovating and co-creating imaginations of what if I'd said yes to that? Like literally experiencing the envisioning of various sliding doors experiences in my life where I vehemently said no and walked away from certain things. What if I'd said yes? Now, here's what happens. This one flushes out any regret that you may have, any remorse that you have. So when I looked at it, okay, what if I'd said yes? And, one thing led to another, led to another, led to another. Not all of the things were pleasant if I'd said yes. But it's like literally at the end of it, it's like, okay, oh, well, right, let's move forward. Nothing remains for you to feel, if only. No regret, nothing, just gone. Going forward, making your choices, use this as a pillar. No, what if I say yes to this? Do the past work first, because it gets your cells into a rhythm of, seeing the fullness of what is. I mean, again, it's a seventh pillar, not somewhere in between. You've already got a handle of the nuance. You've already reclaimed the omnipotency of your power. You're in your majesty. You've demonstrated resilience, so you own it. You are anchored and you are real, making empowered choices. And you're saying, what if I say yes to this? And sometimes you don't even need to analyze. You can say, okay, I say yes. And go for it. Go on an adventure. Uncertainty is certain. Unknown is the known. Change is constant. Take nothing for granted is a modus operandi. What else can you say but say yes? With that, I hand over to you, Catherine.
Another wow, wow, many, many claps. I can hear you guys, even though you're muted. I don't know about you guys, but I am ready to clean house, or maybe I should say build the house, depending on the perspective. And the beauty of this is to get to have fun doing it. Mynoo, what an amazing, opportunity that we now get to do this and take our time, like when you first started. So, wow, thank you, thank you, thank you. Doing it in a full spectrum way. These 7 pillars are so incredibly practical to build harmony within ourselves. And I know it will be contagious, so I can't wait to get started. Let's go ahead and share words for Mynoo. I would love to share those with her. So I'll start with the big wow. That one is probably going to be on everybody's list. Just never cease to surprise us. We know to expect something amazing, but then it's like, what?
I say yes to that.
I say yes to that too. Okay, we have feeling so harmonious, ready to conduct a concert. Ooh, I love that.
Yes,
Yes.
David and Helene.
Beautiful. And we have gratitude, as always. Huge, joyful possibilities await. Yes, indeed. We knew this one would be exciting and make us all happy and feel good, but I didn't know quite the yumminess that would be coming forth that I think we're all experiencing right now. It's so empowering, Mynoo, the way you put this into this unique perspective. So I know everyone is excited to get going with starting this amazing yes to great expansion. Linda, that was beautiful. I agree. Amazing. Expansion is such a great word. Divine embrace, the feeling of I am in harmony because I am never alone. My divinity is all the time. Wow, that's so beautiful. Hope word has a new meaning. Absolutely. Just incredible. So clear. Can't wait to get going.
So
All right.
game on.
Game on. Thank you all so much for coming tonight. It has been just incredible and it has been just so clear. And I just think every week, Mynoo, it gets clearer and clearer. I so appreciate you putting in a way where we can retain it and then implement it in our lives and integrate it. So, yes to omnipotent anchoring, my love. And yes, yummy harmony. All right, everyone. Good night to everyone. It's been so fun.
Good morning.
Good morning and good night.
We should call our show Good Morning and Good Night, actually.
Exactly.
Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.